Okay, roof panel replacement on a double lock standing seam zinc panel. First thing you need to do is get your tools organized that you're going to need for the repair. You're going to need a plastic hammer. Usually have a couple on hand. These are the unlocking tools. This is stage 1. I'll call this stage 2, this tool. And then this would be the third stage tool. It's a vinyl siding unlocking tool, but it works really well for doing the last little fold that we have to unlock. Also going to need a couple of pairs of tongs. These will work. A pair of 90-degree ones. This will help you fold the seams back together. It's just a seaming iron. You're going to need something to protect the panels on either side of the repair. So 16 gauge piece of stainless steel. This is a piece of 045 EPDM. Pretty thin. This will help protect the material that you're trying to save on either side of the repair panel. And then this is just standard toolbox shelf liner, again for protecting the stuff that you don't want to damage. The only thing we want to concern ourselves with is getting this panel out, getting the new panel in, and do no damage to panels on either side. If the roof is at low slope, then you can use a product like this. This is a shingle pad for shingle roofing. Works pretty well for laying your tools on and protecting the panel while you're working on unlocking the seam. So this would go right alongside your work area. You can put all your tools on that and protect the roof on either side. First thing you have to accommodate when you're doing a panel repair is, before the roof installation is complete, you want to make a note of the rolling direction of the panels. Rolling direction is on the plastic. Okay, these panels are rolling this way. If you don't have the rolling direction, the roof's already peeled, and you have no idea of which way the panels were installed, which way this rolling direction is. You should find that out before you fabricate a replacement panel. If you put a replacement panel in and it's facing 180 degrees the opposite direction, that panel will never weather in to match the panels on either side. So rolling direction is very important. If you don't know what it is, don't make the repair panel until you've determined which way the rolling direction is. If the plastic's already been peeled, already peeled the plastic off, you can still determine the rolling direction just by, when you pull this damaged panel out, flipping it over and seeing which way the print is facing on the back side, and then use that information to make your replacement panel. Most of the time when you're doing a replacement panel, the plastic's already been peeled. So roof's complete, everybody's off of there. Something falls on the roof and damages a panel. So most of the time you don't have the luxury of having these panels protected on either side. You have to protect them. So I'm going to peel the plastic off of this so that we have real world conditions. Okay, so this is going to be our damaged panel. Our roof was installed from right to left. So these panels were installed. This one was installed first, then this one, and then that one. So the critical seam that has to be, that requires the most care when you're taking out a damaged panel is this one right here. This seam right here. Seam on this side, you're going to be throwing this away anyway, this part of this panel. So you don't have to be very careful taking that apart. You got to make sure that you don't damage this part of this panel, and you got to protect everything on this side, on the opposite side here. So, two critical areas. So for preparation, you want to get everything ready to go. I'm going to take my shelf paper, put it along my seam here so that my roof is protected. That's not enough to protect tool marks. So always use a piece of heavy gauge material to keep tool marks from transferring through to the panel underneath. You also want to try and watch your foot traffic. I always wear softer shoes, I always wear knee pads, and I always keep my body weight on a foam pad of some sort. Like I said, these shingle pads work really well for that. Good up to about 6/12 pitch. Once you get above that, then you got to take steps to set up a safe setup safely. So this is the side that I don't have to be so careful with. I'm going to be throwing this away anyway. So this side, first stage unlocking tool is this this tool, and I'll give you, when we're all done, I'll give you a place to have access to these tools. So what this tool does, first stage, just opens that up enough that my second stage tool can fit in there. So just going to go open that up. We're trying to protect the panel that this is sitting on, so critical area is going to be the vertical part of the standing seam. You don't want this to be dragging up that side. Just want to catch this lip right here, your very first part of that seam that you have to unlock. You don't need to go any lower than that. So keep your piece of steel anywhere you're using the tool. Just work your way up. Take your time. Work your way right up that seam with that. Done the first stage on this side of the panel, you can drop back, do the second stage. Second stage tool opens this up a little bit further, so it goes on there like this. You want to make sure that you have contact right here. So get that set and then squeeze the handle together. And all you got to do is just come up 90 degrees. You don't have to go crazy with this. 90 degrees is good. Same, you don't put as much stress, down stress with this tool. But if you want to be safe, take your piece of heavy gauge material, put it there to protect the panel that you're trying to protect. Again, I don't have to be super neat with this side because this is going to get thrown away anyway. Just have to make sure I don't damage this panel. Alright, that's the end of the second stage on this side. Okay, last process that you have to do on this side. So take the third step in the process, my siding removal tool. I'm going to try and get this in here to get this started. And if you can't, just open it up a little bit so you've got a shot at it. So I'm going to open this up a little bit vertical so I can see what I'm doing. Once you get that started, what we're trying to do is open that up so that we can pick this panel up off of here. So once you get this to this point, now the corner of this tool is going to leave a mark on that seam, but that mark will be hidden when you lock the new panel on. So it's going to leave a little bit of a mark, but it's not going to be a mark that's going to cause problems later. So just take this tool, and again on this side you don't have to, this does not have to be opened up that far. Just got to get it loose so that this piece comes off easy. So just minimal. Run that along there, loosen that up. And that's it. That's all you need to do on that side. So generally at this point in the process, I'm going to cut this panel in half, get rid of this half, because I don't really, it's easier to do one side at a time than to try and manipulate the whole panel out of there. So I will cut that in half. A couple of different ways to do that. One is just take a pair of snips, cut down the center. Okay. And that is to take a utility knife, do a couple of deep scores down the length of the panel. They got to be pretty, you got to lean on that pretty much. Just about a ½ inch apart. If that's cut deep enough, just want to take and put a little bit of a notch right where you made the cut, right on that score mark there, and there. And then if that cuts deep enough, you'll be able to take a pair of pliers. Just zip that center piece right out of there. Again, it's a nice technique on long panels, because the last thing you want to be doing is damaging the underlayment. So you got a pair of snips in there and you're trying to work your way down with a pair of snips. Sometimes you start digging into all the material that you have underneath it here. So this is a nice, non-invasive, fairly quick way to get that panel out of there. Alright, and once that's out of there, you can remove this side. It should come off no problem. Okay? Now, if the roof's already been peeled and you're trying to figure out rolling direction, then before you take this piece off and start turning it around, just flip it over. Make a note of which way the print is running, so that when you make your replacement panel, everything lines up, okay? Everything's moving in the same direction. Do that when you pull the panel. Okay, so that's all you have to do on that side. If you want to take a pair of 90-degree tongs, clean this up a little bit, it's not going to hurt anything. Most of the time you don't have to do that. You don't have to mess with the clips. So that should be ready to go. This side should be ready. Okay, the opposite side is where you have to be more careful because you have to save this. First things first, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to protect everything you need to protect. To preserve the existing roof panel. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to take our unlocking tool. Just be a little bit more careful on this side because we have to save this. And I don't have to save this, so I don't need to put any protection on this panel. This is gone. It's the bad roof panel. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to take this nice and slow to get that started. Thickness of the... I'm going to put this on here because this thickness of that actually helps give you a little more leverage with this tool. Picks it up a little bit more off the surface. So I don't really need that there, but I'm going to use that just for the leverage. I'm going to be as careful as I can with this so I don't mark up that seam too much. Same thing we did on the other side. Just going to do one stage at a time. If you're doing this and it's a nice sunny day in spring or summer, then you don't have to do anything more than just use the tools to open the seam up. If weather's a little cooler, the sun's not shining, you have any worries at all that it's too cold to open the seam up without cracking the seam, take a propane torch and just, before you move on to the next part of the process, you want to make a couple of passes with the torch. Okay, so this one you can adjust the flame, low or high. All right, and I'll usually just take this, if it's cool or overcast, I'll just take and do a couple of passes with this. Doesn't have to be much. And that'll help soften that zinc up a little bit and make it a little more workable. Now I need to save that side, so this is where the EPDM gets used. I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it on here so that when I open this up to 90 degrees, I don't have any tool marks on the top of that seam. So, same thing we did on this side. We're going to put this tool on here. And this time we're just going to make sure that where the contact point is, that it's hitting rubber to help protect that seam a little bit. Same, we just want to open that up to about 90 degrees. Now I've seen some people use tape to do this, but I don't particularly like digging adhesives. You put a piece of tape on here and then you work your way up this seam. Sometimes it's difficult to get the adhesive off of this. So it just creates one more part of the process that you don't really need to be messing with. So I find it something that's not sticky, fairly thick. This is EPDM, so it's not, and it's a little more durable than shelf paper. Not going to leave any black marks, so it's good for this part of the process. This tool is to get roughly 90 degrees. Get us to the point where we can use the third stage tool. And that's this. Again, we're going to take this, try and get that in there to get that started. And if you can't, just open it up a little bit so you can see what you're doing. Once you can see what's happening there, it's a little bit easier to get at. And that's all you need to do, just that little bit is enough to get that started. Because we're trying to save this seam, you want to do this in a couple of stages, so I'm going to work my way up. Loosen it up a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to drop back here and make one more pass. So I want this wants to be open enough that it's at roughly 90 degrees. All these marks will disappear when you fold the seam back together, so they are not a problem. Okay, and that's all you need to do to get that prepped. Once that's prepped, should be able to take your panel and just release it right out of there. Okay. Okay. So you've done your homework. You know which way the rolling direction is. Before you put the new panel in, just want to do a quick check and make sure that the clips have not been damaged. So you can usually pick that panel up a little bit and see the clips. And I don't see any problems with the clips, so I'm going to go ahead and do the repair. This is a sliding clip, and sometimes when you're taking this apart, the sliding clip will get shifted out of place. They want to sit, if it's a sliding clip, it actually wants to sit in the middle of the in between these two dots for maximum expansion potential. So in between these two dots, if you pick this up and look at it and the clip is jammed on one side or the other, then just reset that in the center. Okay. Okay, so you've done your homework. You know which way the rolling direction is. You got all your protection set up. Protected on this side, protected on that side. Your feet are out of the way. You know which way the rolling direction is on your replacement panel because you've already checked that out. Rolling direction is this way. Okay. When you set the replacement panel, one of the things you want to try and do is, if you have a couple of guys, put a little bit of pressure up, because if you roll this like this and try and lock it on, you're going to miss the clips. So you want to get up against the clips like that first, and then roll, and then set your new panel. Okay. You'll know it if you miss a clip. If you don't know it, you can always pick this up and look and make sure that all the clips are set where they're supposed to be set. Pick that panel up out of the way a little bit. Make sure that the clips are seated properly. And once that's done, then you can begin the reseaming process. Okay. We're in a situation now where we have to save everything, so everything gets protected everywhere throughout the folding process. All right. So I want to make sure that this seam is as close to flat. I want this part here down. So that when I put my seaming tools on there, all my seaming tools work. Alright? So just take a minute. Make sure that's fitting pretty good. That's pretty good. And then begin the reseaming process. Seaming tools, if you're replacing a really long panel, you can mechanically seam it. If you're going to run a seaming machine, then you want to make sure that you're tacked at every clip at least. You want to take and single lock at every clip before you try and rerun a mechanical seamer, particularly on this side. Okay. I'm going to hand seam this. So I want to make sure that everything's seated properly, pieces down on the clips and not sticking up anywhere. If it's a real long run, then you can tack it in a couple of places to make sure that it's seated properly all the way across. Start with the single stage lock here. Single stage. And again, if these tools are clean, you shouldn't get a tool mark here from the seamer. If it is marking the seam, just go back to a piece of rubber, put a piece of rubber on there, piece of EPDM on the seam. Okay. And you can take that tool, lock that like that, okay, and eliminate those tool marks. Again, try to avoid tape. If you're trying to protect this, try to avoid taping, because once that adhesive is on there, it's very difficult to get off. This is one type of tool you can use to do the first stage. Here's another type here. Serves the same function. So, want to single lock everything you need to single lock. I like this tool particularly for repairs. This set of tools, the ESE lockers, for a couple of reasons. They lock on more of a radius. So when you have a seam that's been taken apart like this, you want to try and have it be formed back together as clean as possible. So if you put this on there, get that set right, you can see that eliminates most of those marks that we had on there from the third stage tool. Okay, so same. You can use this for single locking. You can use this for single locking. I prefer this for repairs. So you got a single lock both sides. Protect if you need to protect. Heat it up if you need to heat it up, especially on the side where you've unfolded and are refolding. The more heat is not going to hurt folding that back together, and it'll help protect it from cracking because it's been opened up once and you're refolding it back again. You can do that several times with zinc if it's warm enough, but if it's cool out, you run the risk of cracking the material if you open and close it too many times. So finish with the single lock. Then one more process, you gotta close the seam. Again, there's 3 possible ways to do that. One is to run a mechanical seamer. One is to use standard ROW or Stubai or Wuko tools. So you can take the Wuko tool, use that. Alright, that completes your double fold. Again, if you feel the need to try and protect this, now's the time to put a piece of rubber over that seam. Again, I prefer, on repairing the ESE seamer, I'll show you why. For the same reason that I like the single lock seamer. This folds in a radius, so it's not this seamer, when you're doing this seam, has a tendency to drag up the seam. So this side drags a little bit and puts a mark on this side. This seamer is a little bit more awkward to use until you get used to using it. But it seems in radius, so you got no drag up this side of the seam and a nice smooth radius push on the other side. Take that and work your way up the seam. And again, anywhere you feel like you may be putting a mark on a panel or doing damage anywhere, like this handle for instance, you can always stick a piece of shelf liner on this side, keep this from impacting the panel. I usually just keep my hands underneath of there. Okay. Nice clean seam. Can't tell that that panel's been replaced. Everything's clean, and as far as weathering goes, depending on how long the roof's been on, how long the plastic's been peeled, the new panel should weather in and match the existing panels in 6 months to a year at worst. So it's going to look different when it first goes on, but it will weather in and match up as long as you pay attention to the rolling direction thing. So, same on this side. If you need protection somewhere, don't be afraid to use it. which tool you're using, that you don't do a full hit on the tool. You want to overlap at least a couple inches, because both of these tools flare at the end. So if you go a full width of the tool, you're going to have a little area where the seam is not closed tightly all the way. So just overlap at least a couple of inches at each hit. Yeah, that's it. Most critical thing is protecting the seam. That's the seam that takes all of the unfolding and refolding, so take particular care to make sure that everything you can do to preserve this seam is done. Alright, that's it.